All right, everyone, if you could grab your seat. All of the otters are still in the fellowship hall. The golden retrievers are filling everybody's coffee cups. And us lions are up front saying, let's go. Yeah, Bill's not back yet. Surprise! Hey, let's do a couple more door prizes before we move on to our second session. Ticket number 496975. 496975. Do we have a winner? We got a winner. And oh, yeah, we're doing one per couple, huh?
Yeah, because
Is that the beaver part?
Because it's the same. So we'll
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. I didn't realize she was saying that way, but okay. 496 941. 496 941. Yes? You have one more? Dig to, I'll dig to the bottom. 497080. 497080. 497080. Wow. We got to speak up if you got it. I'm moving on. 497054. 497054. I'm not getting liked very well up here. Well, we had extras that we 497043. 497043. Speak up if it's you. I'm going to keep moving. 496 997. 496 997. Yes, all right, there we go. Okay. All right. We're on schedule, Bill. Thanks for coming back. We appreciate that. Yeah, it was iffy. You heard there was a party going on next door. And okay, let's, Bill, Debbie, come on back and we'll talk about love languages.
Your mic is hot, and so are you, babe. So are you.
Why, thank you, dear.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
So now that I'm retired and I do the laundry, I want to give Russell a word of encouragement. You have a whole pocket of tickets that nobody claimed. Make sure you take them out of your pocket before you wash your jeans. That's about as beaverish as I get right there.
So most people, you're going to use the second handout, and Kay, is the second assessment individual piece of paper? Two-sided. Okay. You want to take yours out and hold it up so it shows?
Take mine out.
So
and
most
hold it
people
up.
are familiar with the love languages. How many of you have taken the assessment and are familiar with it? Raise your hand.
It has little boxes with X's in
Okay.
it.
So I would say that's the majority of people in the room. And so our first response was, oh no, we should have done something different. But actually, oh no, we really feel like we need to dig into this together, because what we have found in working with people and couples for 30 years is that most people can tell you what their love language is. And then when we ask them to tell us their spouses and or their children, they're like, I think it's words of affirmation maybe, I'm not sure. And then we say, well, what's their dialect? And they go, what are you talking about? So that's what we're going to talk about. So interestingly, a new study came out last year. It was in the New York Times, which I thought was interesting. This book, the love language book, was written 30 years ago. So the study was to see Is this relevant? After all these years, did it make sense? Is it true? And is it relevant today? And this wasn't a biased or a faith-based study. And the answer was yes. It's still relevant. It still impacts people today. And so the book started selling again, which is really interesting. So what we first want you to do is take out the single sheet of paper that at the top of it on the front side says, I like to receive notes of affirmation from you, or I like it when you hug me. So if you will take that out and look at it, because sometimes people get confused on how to take this assessment. So I like to receive notes of affirmation from you. There is an X on the A column. I like it when you hug me. There is an X on the E column. Circle the one that you like most between the two. And if you like both of them, that's okay. You'll have another question that'll give you that opportunity. But only circle one. Does that make sense? Has everybody got it? If you have a question, it's better to ask. Okay, go. Answer it for yourself and do both pages.
So there's a total of 30 that you have to circle throughout the whole test.
Explain it one more time, yes. Look at the very top of it where it says, I like to receive notes of affirmation from you, and you put your finger across and you see there's an X by the A. You would circle that.
Circle
The
one.
other choice is, I like it when you hug me. Take your finger across and you see there's an X by the E. You have to choose between those two, picking one or the other. And just go through each couplet. Yeah, each time you're choosing between two things.
So do you want a note or do you want a hug? I'll take both, please. if you've finished all your circling, we'd like you to add up all the circles in each column. So you'll get a number that you write on the bottom of page 2 for all the ones that you circled in column A, column B, column C, and so on. And for all you beavers out there, it should add up to 30 when you're done. About another minute or so.
Look up and wave when you're... Look up and kind of wave at us if you're finished.
Hi.
Okay, it looks like most people are finished. You can keep adding if you're not quite, but if you're finished, look up and we'll kind of get started. Now, if you want to refer to some of the notes, the second stapled packet you were given has to do with this presentation so that you don't have to take notes much unless you want to. So we're going to put some interpretation to this now. So column A, well, first of all, is there anybody that this is the first time you've ever heard about love language? Would you raise your hand? This is first time for you. Okay, so we have a few. So the research in the book were based on the fact that every person, just like you had natural gifts and strengths and potential weaknesses that were in you, in your DNA from when you were created, each person has something within us that we receive love when we are given that type of care or love. And so it's a language for us, even if we don't know it. The research over the 30 years has shown that it's true. It's like we have a bucket inside of us, and when somebody expresses love to us in the way that we hear and understand it, it fills our love bucket. And so you can choose to believe it or not, but I would say with thousands and thousands of individuals taking this and talking about it and assessing themselves over the 30 years, it's proven over and over and over to be very, very accurate. So column A is words of affirmation. I don't know if that's in, that's in your notes. Column B is quality time. C is receiving gifts. D is acts of service. And E is physical touch. And we always give a clarification here. That's physical touch. Most people, especially if they're married, like sex or want sex. This is physical touch above and beyond that as your love language. Or else every guy in the room just says, no, I'm physical touch, and that's all there is to it. Right?
Russell, aren't you proud of me that I didn't say anything? This was a wonderful opportunity to get in trouble.
So let's do a little survey. Now, some of you may have two that are very, very close. If you have one that's highest, we say that's your prime, one that's pretty close to it. That's your second. And if you have two that are identical or only maybe one away, we say you're bilingual. So some people could be trilingual, but usually you're either one or two. So how many words of affirmation is the number one thing that fills your love tank? Let's see your hands. How come yours didn't go up? It's not number one for you. Okay, how many quality time is the thing that fills your love tank?
A lot of timers.
A lot of timers. How many receiving gifts? We just have a few. People do not like to identify with this one every time we do it. We're hoping after today, if some of you kind of do like gifts more than you said, you'll feel okay about identifying that. I used to say I didn't like gifts at all, and then I discovered diamonds. Preach it. Yeah. Acts of service as their primary love language. We have a lot of acts of service. And physical touch. How many people have that? Oh, we have a lot of physical touch out there.
We're the people who give hugs.
That's right. And get in trouble. The highest possible score you could get would be 12. So that would mean that language is really, really strong for you. And if you can identify what your love language 1 and 2 is today, we're really, really excited about that. But the most important thing you discover today is not your love language. It's your spouse's. And the most important thing you could take away today is not speaking your language to your spouse. Stop speaking your language and start speaking theirs. The reason for that is we are going to prove to you today how ineffective it is to speak your love language to your spouse if it's not their love language. We wish we would have known this in the first 20 years out of our 50 years. But we were married for 20 years before the book was even written, so we were clueless. And we'll be self-revealing about how we spoke love to each other. But let's let Bill tell me how he loves me.
So how many people in the room are Spanish speakers? Poquito, okay. Well, I apologize to you for about what I'm about to say because I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation.
But you took it in school.
Yeah, but it's been a long time since I took it in school. So I had somebody write out something that I wanted to say to Debbie, and had him write it out in Spanish. And it goes something like this, so be grace-filled. Mi hermosa esposa, te amo más que a la vida misma. Ruego que Dios bendiga ricamente tu vida.
I took French in school. I have no idea what he said. I can't really speak French either because I didn't practice it. He gets nothing for what did he say something nice to me, Pastor Carlos? What did he say, Pastor Carlos?
Yep, my beautiful wife, I love you more than life itself, and I pray God will richly bless you. Oh, he's so wonderful, and he's an otter.
See, now I get it, because he spoke it in my language, in English. So here's the point. How many of you took a second language in school? At some point in your life, you had to study a second language. Keep your hands up. How many of you can still speak that language quite well? Keep your hands up. Quite well. We have a couple. We have 3. We have 4. You wouldn't say well. So that's the point. Just knowing that you had a little bit of experience in a second language, but you didn't keep studying it. I didn't keep studying it. I didn't work on it. I didn't practice it, and I didn't put myself in a position that I could continue to speak it. So I got nothing. I can ask you where the library is in French. So if I went to France, maybe I could go to the library and then I could find the bathroom, because all I can say is où est la bibliothèque? Because I don't know, that stuck. It's not very helpful.
It's funny, the part of Spanish that stuck for me were the words I learned from the ball players that I played with. But that's not exactly conversational Spanish and not exactly appropriate for today. So we'll just...
So for the person who says, my spouse and I have opposite love languages, and I don't really like touch or words of affirmation that much, or I don't like acts of service, so I don't want to give acts of service. We're here to tell you that it's worth it to learn a second language. In fact, it's so worth it to learn a second language that we're going to give, hopefully, examples and encourage you on how to learn the second language. And the dialect of your spouse or the people that you want to know, you want them to know you love them. Whoops. Thank you.
Is that like a magic trick? Or is
Yeah, I
a
guess
rabbit
so.
going to pop out of your shirt?
Because everybody in your language, you have a dialect. Case in point, we're on the West Coast, we speak English. If we had somebody here from Australia, would they be speaking English probably? Mm-hmm. Do they have a different way of saying it in different words? How about the people from England? How about the people from Alabama?
They might not be speaking English.
Or Boston, right? Even in our own nation, we have all these different ways that we speak English. So just because you might have the same love language as your spouse, your dialect might be completely different. And the way we learn it is to ask them, to study them, to let them tell us. So from now on, the rest of the day, we want you to be thinking in the language that your spouse reveals to you. So how many of you, look at your spouse's answers. How many of you have the same number 1 love language as your spouse? Raise your hands.
Oh, wow. There's a
Wow,
lot.
you guys are the same personality
Same animal,
and
same
the same animal and the same love language. Life is just going to be easier for you. So again, how many spouses here have the same top love language?
Wow.
So we have quite a few. So the dialect really, really matters. And we'll talk about that now. So
So let's dive in. How many of you, again, love languages or words of affirmation was your 1 or 2 up toward the top?
Yeah, 1 or 2.
Okay? So unpacking words of affirmation, that is a love language where your tank gets filled by words that are positive, affirming, complimentary, words of appreciation, make you feel better about yourself. Conversely, criticism may affect you more deeply than other people where words of affirmation is not their love language. So if you are married to somebody who is a words of affirmation person, it's important that you guard your words and you say words that are positive and edifying and encouraging and building up, as opposed to words that are critical that can be taken in a way that hurts their feelings and makes them feel less than. Chime in on that?
So pressuring your spouse to be something different than they are, like me wanting Bill to lion up and do something like a lion, my words would probably, well, we didn't identify ourselves. Well, what are your top 2 love languages?
So you thought we were incompatible, uncompatible, not compatible? We weren't?
Naturally,
Compatible as
the same.
animals, we are even worse when it comes to the love languages. Like my number 1 is her number 5, and vice versa. So again, this is another whole
What
area.
is your number 1?
Well, I'm a tie. I'm between words of affirmation and physical touch. Yeah, baby, come on, come on.
And physical touch for me is 1 from 5 is about 9. Right
You
down.
can't have below 5.
I can't.
No.
So it's 5.
5.
All right. So I am quality time and acts of service, and they are tied for me. So the acts of service, like doing the laundry, that's quality time and acts. That's everything. That's just awesome, right, for me. But words and touch are Bill. He traveled between 100 and 150 nights away from home every year for 45 years. So we are a testimony here.
And we've been married for 51 years, but we've only been together 30.
And touch and words are his love language. And he's gone all the time. And for the first 25 years of our marriage, believe it or not, there were no cell phones, internet. We're old, right? I mean, it didn't even exist. It was a payphone or a hotel room phone. It was the only way we could talk to each other. So, and I was quality time and acts of service. We had to figure this out. We really had to figure this. We were terrible at this for the first 20 years. And words. We'll share as we go along how we figured it out. But up in your top 2. It's one of their top 2, but it's not one of your person who words of affirmation is a lot lower than it is. My spouse needs my words to affirm them, not just I love you, but wow, you look great today.
Thank you.
I really like that shirt.
Me too. Thanks.
I helped you pick it out.
I know you
It's
did.
really nice.
Both in the store and this morning. You will wear this, she says. Okay.
I can't stress it enough. If your spouse's love language is words of affirmation and it's not in your top, you will not naturally be aware that your tiny bit critical words or correcting words or suggesting words to them can make them feel unloved and unappreciated. We really have to work at that. And I'm still working hard at it because I do a check-in with Bill. How am I doing in this? Am I saying things to you that let you know how much I love you? And sometimes he says, like that, and then I know, uh-oh, I haven't been speaking to him what I believe in my heart in a way that he could receive it and hear it. So,
Again, thinking about family, if you have a child where words of affirmation is a big deal. Go back to when I was a little guy growing up, and I already mentioned that perfection in my home was the standard, and never really felt like I measured up as an otter in the world of beavers. And the same thing was probably true, like maybe relating to a baseball game. Maybe I got 2 hits in a game and made a couple outs. And the entire dinner conversation was, why didn't I get 4 hits and why did I make the 2 outs? And I can remember going back to my room feeling less than, feeling defeated, and feeling like a loser. And I'm sure my parents were trying to encourage me not to just settle for mediocrity, but keep trying to get better and improve and become the best version of yourself you can be. But if somebody is a words of affirmation person, they will take that more critically, probably than the person who said it meant it, but still that critical thing hits their heart. So if you have a words of affirmation spouse, or if you decide to do this with your kids and try and figure out what their love languages are, just remember that to a words person, positive words fill the tank up really quickly, but negative or critical words drain the tank almost completely.
yeah, research shows that you almost need 10 positive things to undo 1 negative. Almost for anyone, but for a words of affirmation person, that's critical. And so we suggest that if your spouse is words of affirmation, ask them to tell you, what can I say and how could I express my love for you that would mean a lot to you? Is it writing them notes? They like to get a note in their, lunch or when they come home from work. Is it telling them every day something about them that you appreciate? It's not selfish for you to express to your spouse, this really makes me feel loved. Because when Bill does that for me, it reminds me, I want to speak in his language. It doesn't do any good. Like he spoke Spanish to me and he said something beautiful to me. And he got nothing there was no bang for the buck, right? Because I didn't understand it. So ask your spouse, what would you like me to say? And what words do I say to you that really make you feel bad? And then we say, Lord, would you help me to guard my tongue? Right? And you know what? We all need to guard our tongue and to speak words of life, and especially to our spouses and our family members. So,
Example of a positive thing is, of course, I'm an otter, so I'll make light of it, but I'm on a bus with a whole group of people, and we're going on a factory tour. And Deb sent me a little note, and I happened to open it up while I'm sitting on the bus, and she said, "You are my hunkopotamus." I love being a hunkopotamus. I don't know what a hunkopotamus is, but I think it sounds really cool. And so 2 of the guys looked at the note and was, "What the heck is a hunkopotamus?" I said, "You're looking at it, pal, right here." And for the whole rest of the week, I was teased by the guys in my company, "Oh, here comes the hunkopotamus." And I'll tell you what, it made me feel wonderful. Now, some people might have gotten embarrassed, and that wouldn't be your mojo, and I get that. But the otter looks at it and goes, "This is pretty fun." So it can be something as simple as that. It doesn't have to be a long letter or what have you. It just,
You are my hunkopotamus.
Write that down, hunkopotamus.
All right, quality time. How many have quality time? That fills your bucket. Spouses, look Look at your spouse if they got their hand up. Oh, you guys both have that.
Oh,
So, all right. Quality time. Now, this is a broad section, right? Time can be spent lots and lots of ways, but a person who has this really high that makes them feel loved wants to spend time with the person who loves them, doing something together that's meaningful. So it's giving that person undivided attention. It doesn't mean just sitting on the couch watching football and scrolling on your phone, unless that's what your spouse has said. I really enjoy sitting on the couch watching football and both of us scroll on our phone. I love that.
If that's your wife, God bless you.
Unless your spouse tells you that, you need to let yourself know, my spouse doesn't consider this quality time. We just happen to be in the same room. So the dialect matters. And it really doesn't matter what the time is. It might be, unfortunately, your spouse might say, I really like it when we do the chores together.
Yep, you do.
That makes me feel loved and appreciated.
You're a weirdo. You know that?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But what will happen to your spouse if they've told you quality time with you really, really matters to me? It makes me feel loved and cherished, and it makes me love you even more. And if you have that spouse, and then let's say you make plans, you're going to have a date or you're going to do something special, and you forget about it, just slips your mind, and that pierces them. More than words would pierce them, that pierces them. Or if they tell you that quality conversation, talking together, looking at each other, and connecting is what really is that quality time that means a lot to me. And every time you sit down to talk with them, you either have the remote in your hand and you're flicking through the channel. I'm listening. I'm listening. Or you have your phone in your hand, and in the middle of your conversation where your spouse, that this quality time is important to them, and they're talking with you, and you take a phone call. That says to them, whoever this is on the phone is much more important than you are. This is not easy stuff. You guys aren't nodding your heads. Maybe you've got it all figured out, and we're the only ones who've had to work at this. This is hard stuff because it means we have to change. We have to say, I chose this person. I made vows to this person that I would prioritize them, that I would love them, I would be faithful to them, and I would serve them. And then it's much harder because they don't do it the way we do it. They don't receive it the way we receive it. And so we have to work really hard. Unfortunately, for the words people or the touch people who we haven't talked about yet, and there was a lot of touchers out here. Bill is words and touch. So all he really needs is for me to pat him on the head and tell him he's a hunkopotamus, and he's good. And I'm quality time and acts of service. So what did you do?
Nothing.
So he's got to, vacuum or do laundry or spend time. Well, we can watch television together, but instead of football, maybe we'd watch Wind Calls the Heart.
As my grandson says, he calls me Boppy. He goes, oh, Boppy, turn in your man card. He just doesn't know yet that that's what...
But when Bill does do something like he's graciously done so much is some sort of help around the house. So when I come home from work, I don't have to do it. Or he sits and watches When Calls the Heart. That fills my bucket. I feel loved. And if I'll sit by him on the couch and be really close and cuddly, then it kind of fills his bucket. So, we both feel loved.
win-win.
It's a win-win.
So I think if you're married to somebody who's quality time, there's a skill that we all need improvement in. I started out as a terrible listener. I think I have a little ADHD.
You're just an otter.
Stories, she would start telling stories, and I'm thinking at some point in the back of my mind, are we ever going to land the plane here? I'm thinking about something else, and I'm not paying attention. And if you are married to somebody who's a quality timer, we need to learn to be better listeners, because that is part of the way they feel love, is that connection. And Deb already alluded to it, but this is probably the single biggest deterrent in the world to connection, to quality time, and to good listening. So if we can manage to pry ourselves away from some of the technology and focus on the people that we're talking with, if a quality time is part of their deal, it will make them feel more loved, more appreciated, and more cherished. And I think that's the goal, that we want our mate to feel that way all the time.
And again, if your spouse has this as one of their very top, I would encourage you, ask them, what kind of quality time would speak love to you? Because it may surprise you, and you may go, oh.
I have quality time. It's sitting on a beach in Hawaii.
Yeah.
That's my dialect.
Is that your dialect?
Yeah, Hawaiian beach.
Yeah. Good. I'm all for that. Throw some diamonds in and we're good.
Okay.
Which brings us to receiving gifts. We only had a few people.
Who's our gifters?
Who likes gifts? Okay, a few more are raising their hands. A few more. It's in your top 2, let's say. And you may have a child or an in-law in your life that receiving gifts is really the way that they feel loved. And if it's not yours, you feel like they're materialistic, that it's all about stuff. And the person who receiving gifts fills their bucket, it isn't a materialistic thing. It doesn't have to be diamonds. It doesn't have to be a big fancy thing. It's the fact that you were thoughtful enough to find out what thing would make them feel loved. That you took the time even to ask somebody, ask their friend or them, but find out what it is. And it sometimes can be something very small. It can be roses, or one rose, or a Starbucks coffee. It doesn't have to be diamonds. Diamonds are nice, but it doesn't have to be that. And so the sad thing is, don't mistake this gift for materialism, because it will cause you to make them feel judged. It will cause you will make them feel like they are less than because gifts speak to their heart.
Best gift story ever. My father-in-law's in heaven. Sorry, Dad, you're about to get roasted here.
This is true.
My mother-in-law turned 21. They were married or young, and my mother-in-law's 21st birthday, and gifts was one of her love languages. And my father-in-law did not know that, because they were married long before the book was written. So he comes home from work, and there is some flowers and a present on the table. And he looks and he goes, I wonder what that is. So he walks over and he opens up the card, and it says, "Happy 21st birthday, hon. We love you, Mom and Dad." And he goes, uh-oh, it's her 21st birthday. Guys, if you're married to somebody who isn't 21 yet, that's a big deal. You need to write that down in your day timer.
And
so
so
that
is
you have it.
22 and 23 and 24.
So he decides, I'm dead where I stand if I don't come home with a present. So he rushes out and goes to the nearby hardware store. And
This is a true story.
And yeah, you can't make this up. selects the finest iron and ironing board. And with that, all the women went, and brings it home and gives them to my mother-in-law. Happy 21st birthday, hon, with an ironing board and an iron. And your mom said she wanted to do what with the iron?
Yeah. It didn't tell her that he loved her. And all of their life, they were married 55 years. So it's, they were good. But the whole 55 years, when the story was told, my dad would say, and she still has it because it was the finest you could buy. He still didn't get it. He still didn't. And presents didn't mean anything to him, obviously. So this is another part of the person who receiving gifts is part of their love language. They are very thoughtful about the gifts they give. They don't just run by the 7-Eleven on the day of your birthday and, get you a Slurpee. They have thought about it. They have prepared. Even if they don't have any money, they might make the gift. They're thoughtful about the wrapping. They're often thoughtful about the card that goes with it. It's a really big deal to them. And so if you receive a gift from your spouse or somebody that you love and care about, and you treat it nonchalantly or casually, it hurts them. It wounds them. So our example for this is one of the members of our family, one of our grandchildren, the middle grandchild, gifts is that one's love language. It's also a girl. And so at a very young age, and a lot of little kids do this, she started making gifts. And she would give everybody homemade gifts. And a lot of people do that, even if gifts isn't their thing. But if they keep doing it, it teaches you something. But her gifts, she, by 10, would be starting in August making Christmas presents for every member of the family. With great intention, she still does. But what she makes now is, she's very artistic and very talented. And she saves her money specifically with part of her savings to go toward gifts that she's going to give to people. That's a really cool thing about the person who gifts is their love language. They're so thoughtful about it. And so this granddaughter would make these gifts, and if her siblings tossed them in the trash can, really hard, very hurtful, and it lasted. It caused stress and strain. Or if parents or grandparents didn't appreciate the gift in a demonstrative way, she felt unloved rather than loved. Isn't that interesting? So last Christmas, she had been working 3 jobs all summer, so she felt pretty like she had a bit of money, so she bought very nice gifts. And for the older sister, she bought a pair of yoga pants, shorts, that were kind of spendy and were the thing that all the 20-somethings were wearing. And a sad thing happened, and this was last Christmas, right?
Gifts are not her older sister.
The older sister goes to 7-Eleven and gets the Slurpee the day of the
or Starbucks
or
card
Starbucks card
on the way.
It's just gifts aren't the older sister's deal at all. And they've been trained in this stuff. But the older sister liked the shorts and put them on her dresser. She was home from college. They were both home from college. And the shorts fell in the trash can. And she never noticed. Packed her stuff up, because she's an otter, and went back to college in California. The younger sister was home longer because the U of O didn't start, and went in to borrow something from her older sister's room and found the shorts in the trash can. Honestly, deeply wounded. So summertime, I'm with that granddaughter, and she tells me the story. And she said, I don't know if I can forgive her. And I'm like, whoa, now it's become spiritual. And then we all go on vacation together, and the older flies home, and the younger is wearing the shorts. And the older's like, oh, wow, I really like those shorts. Where'd you get them? She goes, they were yours. You threw them out. And she goes, I did not. I couldn't find them. I didn't know what happened to them. For real. So there was forgiveness. And she's like, you didn't throw them away? No, I didn't. I didn't know what happened to them. So I'm thankful that that happened. And we're also hoping and praying that these two figure each other out so that they can show each other that they love each other in the language that they can understand and appreciate it. So I know we're making a big deal about gifts, and only a few of you said it was your love language, but I'm guessing that some of you have it stronger than you think, especially if you really enjoy giving gifts to people. If you really enjoy giving gifts, it's probably stronger to you and you just don't want to make a big deal about it. So talk to each other, and wherever gifts is on your list, if it's in the top 3, then say to your spouse, what kind of gift can I give to you? And is it routinely a thing? Like a little note can be a gift. It can be a words of affirmation. It can be a quality time. Your spouse needs to hear from you where those things fall. Does that make sense? Because your dialect is different.
And gentlemen, if you ask your wife, what can I get you for your birthday, and she says nothing, do not believe her. She is a liar. Buy something, get something, or make something.
That's probably true, yeah. And if you ask your husband, what can I get you for your birthday, and he says nothing, say to him, I want to celebrate your birthday. So what would make you feel loved? I want to show you. And he may say, go with me to the Ducks and Beavers game. And you could say, okay, let's do it, right? It might not be the new shirt or whatever it is that you would think he would want.
We got to speed this up. We only got 6 minutes.
Uh-oh. Okay, because we got to...
Your acts of service.
Acts of service kind of go without too much explanation, but its actions speak louder than words. It takes a lot of practice. If your spouse is acts of service, you need to ask them, what kind of acts of service? And if acts of service is your love language like it is mine, we need to be patient with our spouses if this is not theirs. Because if they attempt to do something for us because they're trying to show us they love us and it doesn't meet our standard, they won't do it anymore, right? So if you ask them, would you empty the dishwasher, and they put stuff in the kitchen where it doesn't go, instead of saying, you put all the casserole dishes in the wrong cupboard, just move them. And say, thank you. It was so nice to come home to an empty dishwasher before I started cooking. Or if your spouse, if you're the female and your husband, acts of service means so much to him, and he says, I really, really like to go to my closet and have my shirts clean and nice and ready to wear. And many days he goes to the closet and there's nothing to wear, or the thing that he really wanted to wear isn't available for a whole week because you just didn't get to it. Yes, he can go do the laundry himself. And for many couples, that works fine. But if he's told you that's something that speaks love to me, that's when we have to say, I'm gonna work harder at this, right? It's really about not speaking Spanish to an English speaker or English to a Spanish speaker. Whatever the language is, we married each other. And if we want them to believe that we love them, we got to speak it to them so they can understand it.
A couple thoughts on the acts of service.
We got to hurry because we got that
I know.
garage story.
Couple is okay.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, back to the couple.
Physical touch.
Yeah. Back off, Lion.
Oh, yeah. 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 Get your voice. Get your voice.
So, if you're married to somebody who is a person of acts of service, like in our case, Deb is still working full time, and she has a busy schedule and a lot on her plate. And so I've learned over the last 5 years or so to come to her, usually every morning before she leaves, and ask, what's one thing I can do today to take something off your plate, to make your life easier, and to make you feel loved?
Isn't he wonderful?
Go, Otter, go.
Yeah.
And the Otter's like, oh boy, here it comes. And
It's wonderful, actually.
if you happen to be the person who is an acts of service person, don't fall back on, you shouldn't have to ask me. You should just know what to do. I'm telling you, we don't know what to do. You did not marry the guy from the Hallmark Channel. He's the only one who knows. So if your mate asks you, be kind enough to tell them, yes, could you do this today? Or I have a prescription at Walgreens. Could you go stand in that line that never seems to move for an hour and do that for me, right?
And it doesn't matter, male or female, even though the act of service might be different based on whether we're the husband or the wife, it really matters to them. And if we say we forgot to do it, it makes them feel unloved. Physical touch, that's yours.
Physical touch is, I think all of us have the dialect of sex if you're in a happy, healthy marriage. This is different than that. This is just holding hands, standing beside each other, touching. Grandkid story, we have one who's a touch and one who is not, and the one who is not accuses the one who is of being a barnacle. I love that phrase. Get off me, you barnacle. Because this one always wants to sit close. This one always wants to be touching. The other one wants personal space. And so watching the dynamics of the two grandkids figure this out is really pretty comical. But
Older sister, younger brother's touch. Older sister is like this, and he's like a barnacle.
he'd still sit on your lap at 12. She quit sitting on your lap at 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just who God made him to be.
Yeah.
And so rather than getting frustrated that they're not like you or they're not like one another or they're different, it's like being in the animals. You have to learn to love and accept this wonderful creature that God has given you. And for you guys that are similar animals and similar love languages, no kidding, life will just be easier for you. You may be sitting there going, you don't know our story. Our life's not that great, but whatever. It's for the rest of us that are not the same, opposites, if you will, in love languages and animals. It doesn't mean you can't have a good marriage. We have a great marriage. We have a lot of fun. We get things done occasionally. We speak each other's love language better now. It's a journey. And I'd like to say that when we first got married, we weren't very good at either. And 50 years down the road, we're better at both. Not as good as we're going to be, because I'm the optimist and life's always going to be better. But it is something that you can learn. And so, like, I'm a hand holder. And bless her heart now, when we go somewhere, she will hold my hand. And we walk down. And it was pretty fun when we were in China. They don't do that. And we're walking down and people come up and go, I want to take your picture. It's like, okay, great. And they don't see people holding hands. They thought we were freaks. I guess we were.
So can we have a couple more minutes, or should we? Are you sure? Okay. So the physical touch thing, if you're not high on it, it's really low for me. I was raised in a family, I guess, people hug my brother, my older brother, and they say it's like,
I'll give you a hug.
Yeah, it's like hugging a gingerbread cookie. Just there wasn't touch much in my family. So
Touch much. I like that.
touch much.
Touch much.
But it's number one for Bill. And I still have to work on it. And we were preparing yesterday and evaluating and talking together. And I said, how am I doing in the area of the physical touch? And he went, and I went, you're kidding me.
I touched you on Monday.
And first I got my feelings hurt because I thought I had been really doing well. But actually, I'd been doing pretty well in the words of affirmation part. His are those two. I've been really working at the words of affirmation. And the touch part has to do with sitting close to each other. Like, usually at church, I usually have appointments a little bit on Sunday mornings, and I'll come running in and sit by him in church just as it's starting. And we don't have chairs, we have pews. And so I'll sit down like this, and then he'll scoot over. And so then I'll scoot over. And then he'll scoot over until I'm to the next person and I can't scoot over anymore. And I realize I need to come into church and sit down like this.
Atta girl.
And I work at it and then I forget. And I work at it and I forget because it's not my native language. It's way down the list. Why are we telling you this? It never changes. You have to keep practicing the foreign language. Because if you don't, it's just like me with French. I can ask you where the library is. That's it. And our spouse needs more than the library. They need that attention in a way that we can really speak it to them and they can receive it.
So there's your homework assignment. So Russell, you leave here and you're going to learn to continue to speak fluent K. And it is a highly complicated language, I'm assuming, because Fluent Debbie is really complicated.
So we have given you a lot of pages in this little booklet, and it has suggestions and information. And what we would suggest, if you really, truly would like to have a takeaway from today that can matter, if it's not that big of a deal, toss it, no big deal. But if you want this to matter in your relationship, we would encourage you to take the booklet for yourself and highlight it in one color that speaks you. And even write notes on it that says, this really makes a difference. And then exchange booklets. And you keep your spouse's booklet and refer back to it. Look back at it, and if they made some of the suggestions, I would love this. Our suggestion is you ask the Lord, Lord, can you help me be better at this? Holy Spirit, can you remind me of this? Because the goal here really is to lay our life down in serving our spouse so that our marriage can reflect what Jesus designed it to be, which is really to reflect his relationship with us, the church, and how he laid his life down for his church is how we are asked to lay our life down for our spouse. And the way we love them not only tells them that they're loved, it shows the world how to love.
And I think it's important to remember, 1 John tells us that we love him because he first loved us. And isn't it wonderful that each of us in this room is different and unique? We're all made in God's image, but we're all a little bit different. And he is able to send us his love through his Holy Spirit in a manner that we can understand and we can receive and we can be blessed by. And I think the goal is not just to be like a lake. We don't just want to just keep storing that all up, but to become like a river and let that flow out of us and touch the hearts and lives of the people that God has placed in our families and in our communities and our churches and our marriages. And so we really do think, as simple as this has been, if you learn the animal that you're married to and you learn the language that they speak, you can have a better marriage. And we are a living proof of that. So bless you guys. Thanks for your attention. Oh, go ahead.
No, well, we usually end with that, but we're going to end with a story that shows you the opposite. So you can laugh, and you can maybe remind yourself, uh-oh, is this a garage moment?
Oh, no, this story never goes well for me.
So the garage story in like a minute and a half is Bill was gone on a business trip. We still didn't know anything about this. We had a teenage son, and he was a traveling salesman, had lots and lots of samples, and our garage was a mess. All the samples and all the stuff and just a mess. So he was gone for a whole week, and it was spring break. And so I got my son, Lion Beaver, with a Lion Beaver, and we organized the garage. We built shelves. We painted the garage first. It had never been painted. Painted the garage, built the shelves, organized all of his samples, and put labels on all the shelves so that everything was just beautiful. It was so beautiful. And you could now fit 2 cars in the garage. It was pretty amazing. Now, his love language, right, is words of affirmation and touch. And he's been gone for a week. And I don't know this. I know he's been gone. I don't know his love language. He comes home from the business trip, pulls in the garage, gets out of his car, comes in, walks into the family room, and I look at him and I go, well? And he goes, well? And I went, well? He goes, what? And I said, the garage. And he goes, I came in the garage. Now, I'm wanting him to say, babe, look at the garage. It's beautiful. It's organized. I could get my car in the garage. And he's wanting me to run over to him, put my arms around him, tell him I missed you so much. Thank you for working so hard. You're my hunkopotamus.
It's not that difficult. God.
Neither of us felt loved. Neither of us felt appreciated. Both of us felt taken advantage of. Because I spoke my language with great effort and got my son along in the process. And it was like Spanish. So, normally we end on that serious, but really, truly, for us, it's always, is this a garage moment? And it's language for us that I can say to him or he can say to me, and we're like, oh, baby, yeah, this was garage. This was me speaking it to you. How can I speak your language?
Good?
Thank you, Bill and Debbie. I've come up now with 2 reasons why the Hallmark Channel needs to be banned. And if I am ever elected president, not that I'm announcing my candidacy or anything, but that would be my first executive order is to ban the Hallmark Channel because of what it does to men and Christmas movies. I'm sorry. It's got to go. All right. Hey, you have a green half sheet of paper there with some questions on it. We'd like you to, there's one label for couples, another one for singles. If you would take just the next 5 minutes or so, and I'd like you to turn to your spouse and answer these questions as best you can. Think a little bit about what you learned today. Share with your spouse. At noon, I'll come back. In about 5 minutes, I'll come back. We'll pray over lunch, and we'll have lunch. So talk with your spouse, or as a single, just make some notes of the things you learned today from those questions. All right, everyone. I hope this conversation will continue this evening and on into the next few weeks, and the homework that Bill and Debbie gave you, that you'll take the packet and go through it together. That would be a good thing for your relationship. So, we have two things left on our agenda for today. One is that we're going to go to lunch in just a moment. That's a good thing. At 1 o'clock, be back in here promptly at 1 o'clock. We're going to have our back by popular demand panel discussion. I've gone through the questions. There are some really good ones. I'm going to give you one sample right now, and panel members, I'll just take this one. What direction should the toilet paper go? Over the top or back over the bottom? It's always up over the top, always. Okay. All right. I'm glad that we have such unity in our church, Pastor. For those of you who are not sure about that, we'll have prayer teams after the session. We'll pray for you. Speaking of prayer, let's pray over lunch. Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this time together to work on our marriage. We are so grateful, Father. Thank you for the words that you spoke to us today. We pray that we will apply them well. Father, take this meal, bless it to our bodies, and bless our fellowship together. In your name, amen. Don't forget your kids. They get to eat too. So we'll see you back at 1 o'clock. Oh, yeah. Grab and go.